So car seats are important because children under the age of 13 are killed in car accidents more often than any other way, which includes other types of injuries or any kind of illness or sickness. So the most important thing you can do for a child in order to prevent these deaths that happen during car accidents is to have them restrained properly when they're in the car. And this means having the right size car seat for that child that's installed properly and having the child properly buckled into the car seat. Depending on the age of your child, the car seat that you have in your car is going to have to vary. So anyone under the age of 2, Louisiana requires that you remain rear facing, and that means facing the back seat of the car. Anyone under the age of 13 needs to be sitting in the back seat, and anyone under the age of 18 is required to wear a seatbelt, whether they're in the front or the back seat. Now, it's also important to remember that when we are moving from one group to another, the age is less important than the height of the child. So for the little babies, you're going to want to look at your manufacturer's height and weight requirements and max numbers that you can safely put into one car seat. And so every car seat is going to be a little bit different in terms of what size child will properly fit into that car seat. So after the age of 2, they are allowed to face forward. Most children at this point are going to be in a forward-facing car seat with a harness. When they are 4'9", they're allowed to go into just a booster seat. And that might have a back or it might not have a back, but they still should not be left in just the seatbelt alone. They do need that extra height that's provided by the booster until they're 4'9". Typically that happens somewhere between the ages of 8 and 13 years. For infants, it's also important to remember things like we shouldn't restrain their head whenever they're in the car seat. In case of an accident, you want their head to be able to move freely, and that's because in case of a collision, the body is made to withstand forces up to a certain extent, and any kind of resisting of that movement could potentially cause internal damage to the spinal cord. It's also important to remember that you should not put any child with a super puffy or heavy coat or jacket into the car seat. All of those need to be removed before putting the child into the car seat, or else the car seat harness will not work as it's made to restrain that child in the case of an accident. With the rear-facing car seats, it's also important not to put them into the front seat of a car. And again, that's because if the airbags deploy, the car seat is not made to sustain that force, and it could potentially injure the child more having that airbag hit the car seat, jolting the child forward. The car seat should always be placed in the rear seat of the car in that instance. In the rare occasion that there's no other choice but to put the car seat into the front, most cars do have a way to turn off the front airbag in that case. So you need to refer to your car's owner's manual for those instances. If your child has special needs, there's some babies who are born very early who can't tolerate being in a car seat without having their oxygen levels drop. There's some children with special medical needs. Maybe they have a device in their stomach or some kind of external brace or medical equipment that doesn't allow for a regular car seat harness to be properly buckled. There are special car beds and even other car seats that are specifically designed to accommodate children that have these additional special needs. There's also some children that as they grow older don't tolerate a regular booster seat or harness, and so they actually have larger booster seats that are made for children who can't do the regular seat belt. One question we often get is, when do I need to get a new car seat? So as I mentioned before, if your child has exceeded or met the weight and height limits for that car seat, that's obviously the time to get the next size up. A lot of car seats nowadays are made to grow with your child. They can transform from the infant car seat to the forward-facing car seat with the harness to even a booster seat. Now, it is important to note that most manufacturers have expiration dates for car seats. Typically, these are 5 to 6 years from the time that they were made. Other times it's important to replace the car seat is if there's any obvious damage, cracks to the base, damage to the harness, preventing it from buckling. Anytime you can't install the car seat properly, it's time to get a new one. The other time it's really important to get a new one is after a car accident. Kind of like if a helmet, when you're wearing a bike and you fall off it and it gets cracked, you need to replace it. So same thing with the car seat. Sometimes damage can happen to car seats internally that we might not be able to see externally during a car accident. And so after those times, it is recommended that you go ahead and replace the car seat and get a new one after an accident. So what happens if you're traveling? Most airlines actually now will let you check a car seat for free, either at the plane side or at the baggage claim. It's important to check ahead with the airline and to make plans for traveling. The last thing you want to do is to get to your destination and realize that you don't have the proper car seat ready for your child. It's also important to set a really good example for your child. So every time you as a parent are getting in your car, make sure that you have your seatbelt on with the shoulder strap and the lap belt in place. Now, two really good resources that are available to you as a parent. The AAP's website for families, healthychildren.org, has some great information about what ages need what car seats, and actually have links to videos about how to properly install and put your child into the car seat to restrain them. The Louisiana Department of Safety also has an excellent website with the Louisiana specific rules and regulations, as well as some graphics to help you know when it's time to use a car seat and when it's time to move up.